Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. Well, what night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it is time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. As always, we're going to go around and we're going to introduce our esteemed panel of all of our great guests that are here on this evening. And I'm going to start with my colleague who leaves us and goes and have fun in the sun. But I don't know if he's having as much fun right now. That's our very own Dr. Douglas Graham. Dr. Graham?
Hey, thank you, Nikki. And you're right. And just for the record, I'm coming back to Chicago in 2 weeks, so I'm missing nothing. So I'm a retired physician. I worked in the Western suburbs for 30 years. And after I retired, I spent 2 years in the Congressman's office. And it was really an eye-opening experience. It's a real honor to be here with my colleagues. And I'm going to try and answer your questions as best I can.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. Well, to the woman that's known on the streets as Dr. 100, that's our very own family practice medicine doctor, infectious disease specialist, HIV specialist. That's our very own Dr. Maya Green, aka Dr. 100.
It's a mute button struggle. I want to thank you, Nikki and Congressman Davis, for having me. Thank my wonderful colleagues for joining. I'm enjoying the weather here. I am looking forward to putting bright smiles in our heart, just as sure as the sun is shining right now. Thank you for having me. Let's get it.
All right, absolutely fantastic. Well, to the guy who's an art connoisseur but has done so many great things in healthcare, that's our very own Joe Harrington. Joe.
Well, thank you, Nikki, and thank you, Congressman Davis. As always, we thank you for providing this platform, this opportunity to share whatever information we can about health and well-being. My name is Joe Harrington. I spent most of my career in public health, but also worked in healthcare, worked at 3 different hospitals, worked for the City of Chicago Department of Public Health under Dr. Mason, starting under Dr. Mason as an assistant commissioner. Retired in 2017 from the Illinois Department of Public Health, where I was a regional health while I was the regional health officer for Cook County, as well as an administrative law judge.
Outstanding. And we have a special guest that's here with us on this evening, and his name is Victor Love. He's a entrepreneur, a connoisseur of great foods, but I think he thinks he's a professional car racer. That's our very own Victor Love. Victor, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
How's everybody doing? It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. Again, I'm honored to be invited amongst such esteemed people. And I always like to say I am the only begotten son of the one and only Mother Josephine Wade. So I'm glad to be here. And just as a heads up and a warning, I'm in the yearbook for most talkative. So I'm going to just try to shut up and listen and learn and just jump in when I can't just hold my peace no more. So thank you for having me, Nikki.
Outstanding. Want to say hey to Connie Taylor, who is here with us. She says good evening to everyone. Want to say hey to Dr. Miller. Dr. James Miller is he's recovering from a back injury, but he says that he missed you guys and he'll be here soon. I know Dr. Mason will be joining us shortly. Want to say hey to Commissioner Carrie Steele, who is here. She says hey to everyone. She's excited and waiting. Want to say hey to Pat Dow, who is here just as well. So to the man who makes this possible for us each and every Monday night, to the one who teaches us that true wealth is health, that's the Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District, our very own Congressman Danny K. Davis. Congressman?
Well, we'll just get it on. I was fortunate to spend much of yesterday in church with Alderman Pat Dow. As a matter of fact, we arrived at the same time and had a wonderful time experiencing the 88th anniversary of the St. Paul Church of God in Christ. And we both sat there through the whole service, had a wonderful time, and we're ready to roll now that today is Monday. We not only did that one, but I did a couple of others. And look forward to today's discussion. So let's take it away.
Outstanding. Well, of course, June is Men's Health Month. And I know later on this month, we're going to have a conversation about the prostate and all those things that we need to do to make sure that men are healthy. But we have a special conversation we want to have today about African American men and mental health. So there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. So let's talk about men's health, mental health, that is, really quickly. I don't know, Dr. Maya, if you want to start, or Victor, if you wanted to begin the conversation.
Yes. Well, on this weekend, we'll be having I'll be celebrating my 60th year on the planet. And my partner, Lonnie Jones, and I, we make up Love Jones Entertainment and Love Jones Solutions and Love Jones Festival. And we didn't just want to have a party, celebrating our 60 without having a purpose behind it. And it being Father's Day weekend, we want to salute the outstanding African American fathers that don't get the credit that they deserve, because I know for a fact, because I am one and I come from one. But we're also raising awareness for Black men's mental health. We're raising money, we're raising conversations. I will be introducing my new podcast that'll be coming this fall, called Let's Go for a Ride with Victor Love. And we'll be talking about getting a checkup from the neck up. And I guess, and again, we'll just be exploring conversations on why Black men don't want to go get a checkup from the neck up. And all the different nuances that come along with that. So it's going to be very exciting. And Nikki, based on our conversation earlier, I definitely want you to go for a ride. And maybe, no, because you know what she did, Congressman Davis? She passed it off to you. I would be honored for you to get in the car and go for a ride with me, and we have a conversation about Black men's mental health.
Long as you don't exceed the speed limit.
Yes, sir. I'm going to act right.
So, Victor, how do we remove that stigma behind mental health and, African American men getting that checkup from the neck up? How do we remove that stigma?
I think it takes brave men who have already gotten on the couch. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about they will overcome the sins of the world and the troubles of the world by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And you just need somebody brave enough to tell on their own self. And that's what I'm going to be doing with this unveiling of my podcast, because just so you all know, I'm on the couch. Always wanted to get on it, kind of knew I needed to get on it. And COVID slowed me down enough, because I'm always running, got my hands in a lot of different things. And COVID slowed me down to get on the couch. And it was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made. And I'm still currently checking in with my therapist. And I believe I'm an open book. My big sister, Pat Dow, knows my mother very well, maybe some of you others, but we don't mind sharing our truth. You know what I mean? Whatever you think about it is what you think about it. But if I can share my testimony and help another brother save his life or save his marriage or rebuild his relationship with his children or keep a job even. Some of us brothers are so angry and so scarred and traumatized that we can't even keep a job because we're paranoid that everybody's out for us when we get the job. So we just, we need to say our voice. And as I've been saying, we matter too. Black men's issues and our concerns and our fears matter too. So I'm going to be exposing and conversating about all of those kinds of things.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Maya, it looks like you want to say something, and just don't forget to unmute.
No, I was just really thinking about what Mr. Love was saying, and thinking about how, y'all know I'm always got to talk about historical context of this country and things like that, right? I speak that way knowing that we were at an event and I turned to one of my colleagues who was an African-American man, and we were talking about high blood pressure and diabetes and mental health and all these other things. And I just casually was like, hey, one of the things that people do and the body keeps the score, it kind of talks about this too. is like the meditation, the yoga, the exercise as one of the ways, and I want to say that one of the ways, not the only way, not something that you should do outside of seeking assistance from providers, which is another issue, providers that you trust, one of the ways to place some of that trauma that have been historically put upon our Black people and specifically our Black men, if you think about it, all the way from, incarceration, why it started, who gets incarcerated, and things like that. Those things are intentional, yet we live in a place where we have to prove that every act is intentional and the whole thing is intentional, and then look at, and then if the system that you're supposed to get care from where you can't trust is a place where 83% of psychologists are white. 83%. The American Psychology Association did a study in 2000, I believe, 19, right? And not to say that that can't be a place, but even there's a reason for that. 83% of people aren't white, so why are 83% of psychologists white? And then think about the 20-minute, even our psychologists, white or not, that are here to help our community. Think about the 20 minutes that they've been put under, and where do you unpack all the things that have happened in your entire life in 20 minutes? You don't. So that's why studies show that African American people get a higher level of care with African American providers, because there are environmental nuances, there's systemic nuances that are understood before that provider walks in there. But closing that loophole and moving to space for my other colleagues to speak on this, if 83% of the people don't understand the nuances, then when you come in, I've worked in place, when you come in, there's already, a misunderstanding. There's already, the opportunity for improvement in how we care, So there's another study that shows that only 53% of African Americans diagnosed with major depressive disorder actually receive mental health. The disparity is there. On top of the disparity, our African American, back to what I said, yeah, we can say exercise, things like that. We can say go for a run, but literally, if you run outside, your running is left up to interpretation by other you were, where we have the nerve to decide whether or not you were running for your health based on your shoes after you have been wrong.
So I think
so. There's layers like an onion. There's layers of space.
Okay, Joe, are you trying to say something there? I see you.
Got a long distance call. I'll join
for improvement. That's why, Mr. I'm glad y'all here doing.
No, I thought you had got frozen for a second.
Am I frozen or?
I guess you're back. Oh, there's Dr. Terry Mason. Okay, so I think his tech issues are over just as well. Well, Maya, I wanted to share something that the Center of Disease Control shared. The CDC shows that suicide is the second leading cause of death among African American men between the ages of 15 and 24. And they give a number in reference to our men that are 25 to 65, which is simply alarming. It talks about childhood trauma, racism taking a toll on African American men and their mental health. I do have a question that says, what is epigenetics?
Am I frozen? There's another one of mine. I know I've been talking.
No, you're okay. We can hear you now.
Yeah, but I didn't know if one of my colleagues was talking about it. Okay, well, let me go in. So epigenetics is essentially the study of gene expression. Okay, on a cellular phenotype, I do not include alterations do not include, how would I say this, changes in your DNA sequence. So DNA sequence is a certain number of, let's just imagine, letters put together, almost like a word, things like that. But what happens if those things change, or you have injury to those spaces, or different changes in those spaces due to things, but the actual sequence never changes? I remember talking about trauma. It reminds me of can't remember the name of the study. After this, I will look it up and post it. But there's a study that literally shows that the things that African American men and women are going to, stressors, right? Discrimination based on the color of their skin. The color of their skin is weaponized, right? They're African American male, it's weaponized. Trouble getting a job, but then people say get a job, but then no one wants to hire, them, or getting in school or getting out. Those things wear on your DNA. I remember a couple of months back, actually, I was talking about telomeres and how each end of it are like bumpers of a car, right? You have this kind of DNA in the middle, and on the first end, if my ears are bumpers of a car, this is my back bumper. Stress and things like that, experiencing what people call microaggressions, but after 1,000 of them have been done to you, it's definitely a macroaggression, including the fact that people want to name them microaggressions for you to feel like those things aren't happening. It kind of wears down on your bumper. And when you're driving, what happens to a car when you've worn down the bumper? The next injury actually does damage to the car. So if I go back to my example of DNA, the next injury after that, and after that actually does damage to the DNA, which leads to depression, which leads to chronic disease, which leads to slow healing, right, in the body on a physical standpoint. But going back to the book, The Body Keeps the Score, it also talks about what's done to the psyche as a result of all this, right? And then on top of that, I know I'm going, but I want you to see the layers. After all of that is done, on top of that layer, right, you have lower levels of ability to get insurance. And then after you get the insurance, studies show, all things given, same amount of money, same insurance. When you enter the healthcare system, our Black men are getting worse care or access or less access, even with insurance. And then once you get in the room, lower levels of people from where you're from that understand the background of the nuances of how you got here, because we can talk all day about what's happening right now, but a lot of things we experience are about what's happening now, but they're based on our life experiences, right? So imagine that onion and that barrier just getting wider and wider. And now with the message of hope, I want to say again, that's why whoever came up with this topic, I'm glad we're talking about it. So I'm happy to also, there's doctors like Mr. Love. I don't know if you know Dr. Obari Cartman.
No, I don't.
Oh, let me link you. Who's doing a lot of work in the healing area, making spaces for our Black men to heal.
Yes.
So there is hope. I don't want you to leave like, yes.
Abari is phenomenal. I want to say hey to Melinda Maxwell, who's here with us. Melinda Maxwell is here. Melanie Span Cooper is here. Hey, Melly Mel, how are you? Rebecca Cook is here with us just as well. Pastor Upendu Parker is here, and he's saying hello to the congressman. Rose Parker is here just as well. Pauline Hankins is here with us on this evening, and she's saying hello to everyone. Sister Bonnie is here, and she says hi, hey to Audrey Jaycox, who is here with us just as well. Deborah Williams and Tina Johnson are here. Want to say hey to all of our friends over at the Core Center who are actually working, but they just passing by that monitor saying hey, and they said that they are happy for this conversation because Black men's mental health is so important to them. Jacqueline Morris is here. She says, any community men's health events happening this month? Jacqueline, there are tons of them, and I will be posting them on my page so you can see them. I want to say hey to Janice Henry, who is here with us. Kimberly Alexander Jackson is here with us just as well. Hey, Kim, how you doing? Great to see that you are here with us and listening. Thank you so much for being here with us. I want to say hey to Audrey Tanksley. Hey, Dr. Tanksley, how are you? To Jerome Price, that's here. Jerome is here just as well. All right. Joe, I thought you wanted to say something. I know you had picked up a call or something, but we are back and ready for you now. Joe Harrington.
They come off of mute and talk about it. It may contribute to this issue of mental health. And the other thing I want to say, June is Men's Health Month, and I know there are a lot of groups just before Father's Day. Actually, there's an event at Chicago State on Saturday around men's health. And I know there are going to be a lot of events coming up this weekend focused on men's health. So people should be aware of that and look for opportunities to get screenings and go to talks and find out what's going on, because June is Men's Health Awareness Month. And so this is a good topic to be talking about. But one of the phenomena that's been of interest to me over the years is this thing called allostatic load. It's really about the day-to-day wear and tear on the body, which creates chronic stress. And there are studies that have shown that African Americans typically have a higher allostatic load, which may contribute to what we're talking about. And a lot of that is related to the socioeconomic conditions, and it gets back to this whole issue of the social determinants of health, because where you live makes a big difference on your health moving forward. So, unfortunately, many African Americans live in socioeconomically disadvantaged neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods have lacked to significant resources, job opportunities, healthy food, good schools, and so I think what the study is really reflecting the day-to-day stress of living in a neighborhood like that. Homicide is, and we're seeing what happens every summer around this time. Homicides are going up, so that too can exacerbate things and, in fact, manifest itself as mental and behavioral health.
Well, let me ask a question. I agree with everything that I've heard, and I agree generally with all of our discussions. But it seems to me that we're always talking about the need for change in one way or the other. And the question is, what's perhaps the most effective change agent? I mean, if all of us individually are taking care of ourselves and doing all the good stuff we need to do, I'm sure that would help some. And so, as many people as we can educate or help educate to do that, that will reduce some of the stress. It will reduce some of the way to manipulate these environments and do our right. But is that the most effective way of bringing about the change that we're seeking? Victor, you were about to respond, so go right ahead.
Again, I repeat what I just said. The word is real clear. By the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And I think we rise to certain levels of success and prestige, and we don't want people to know that we go through this or we suffer from that, because we want people to have us, hold us in a certain regard. And what happens is you're sitting right next to somebody who's in a crisis, and because you don't want to tell on your own self, somebody loses their life the next day, and you may not know it, or you may know it. I'd be very surprised on how many people knew they had the answer or the solution to pull a person up or pull them through. And because they didn't want to share their own personal testimony, that person lost their life. or lost their job or went through divorce or what have you. I just think we got to start telling on ourselves, regardless of what degrees, how much money we got, what kind of cars we got. And when you, if, you know, Congressman, I'm really hoping that you'll be able to make it. But when you see this reel that I'm gonna reveal, you know, very high end, very polished. I got my stuff together, but I'm gonna spin it, and I'm gonna let them know, yeah, I look all together, but I suffer from some issues in my head. But I'm working on getting better. I am getting better, and I'm hoping my message will help somebody else get brave enough to get on the couch. We gotta tell them. I'm gonna write a book one day, and it's entitled simply this: "You can't beat me telling on me." And I'll
Sounds
be
like
quiet.
an interesting read.
You can't beat me telling on me. You might know some things about me, doctor. I can tell you stuff, but I ain't told you all of it. So if you really want to know the facts about Victor Love, come right to Victor Love. Don't take it from somebody else across the street or the next door neighbor. Nobody can beat me telling on myself.
You know, this is an real interesting conversation. And I'm really sort of enjoying what I'm hearing. But I wanted to add another dimension to the conversation. And, you know, we always talk about what whites have done for this and that and the other. But the worst thing is that they institutionalize a system that not only created everything that we've been talking about in terms of differences and opportunity and all that sort of stuff for Black folks, but to me, the most insidious thing that happened was how it was used to help us dismantle our own self-identity and self-worth. And we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. But we need to talk about that, because some of what drives, now I'm not saying all of it, some of the things that we see, and Lord knows, since I was at the county, both directly and not directly, seeing the kind of violence that gets perpetrated by Black people on Black people. There are a number of reasons for that. And we cannot leave out that what racism was, or what racism is, and one of the most successful things that it's done is it's replaced, necessarily from one point of view, people from race coming against us, to us coming against ourselves, and losing the value for what we can bring to the table ourselves. I was fortunate enough to grow up at a time when we still had, I mean, you think about it, our communities, for any number of reasons, and I'm not going to say it's all just race, but for any number of reasons, you know, I grew up when we had 6 Black banks in the city of Chicago. I grew up when we had multiple automobile dealerships owned by Black people in Chicago, grocery stores. Every job that I had when I got started as a teenager, I got from a Black man. There's one from Meridian, Mississippi, and he was the one that hired me to be in the grocery store. And you know, it's really true that whoever said you can't be what you can't see. And if you don't see people that look like you in positions of authority, it's hard for you to imagine that you can be too. And so that's why we do what we do with trying to deal with the medical students and everything else, because we need people to see us doing things, and they need to see us doing and being in control. And it's one thing to be the one that's there, but it's another thing for us to think about. You know, I grew up in a neighborhood. I grew up in Inglewood, and we had that kind of situations, and we had a family atmosphere in the neighborhood because we all saw ourselves as a family, not as individuals, but as a family of families trying to make it in this neighborhood, doing what we need to do. So I don't want to not make sure. I want to make sure that we don't leave out self-hatred, which is what the real product of racism was really about. And to get us to the point where we would do enough damage one to another that it wouldn't be necessary for them to continue to do as much has been done. And of course, the systems are set up for us to still have difficulty managing those things, but we still need to rise and do what we need to do for ourselves.
Well, don't everybody be silent at one time. So Connie Taylor is here and she says that Meridian MS my hometown. Oh, okay.
Yes, Meridian,
Uh,
Miss.
okay. Well, I see we've been joined by Lenny Jones. Mr. Jones, did you want to add to the conversation?
I'm listening. I want to say hello, and this is very interesting, and there's some great things being said. I do agree with Doctor. I think that's Doctor Mason, and as well as Mr. Love. I mean, I think we have to start from a economic point of view, for we can have a point of reference. Because we don't see the young people don't see we don't see as black men enough black men doing what it is to be in a position to control their own narrative, their own direction, their own life. And once we see that, I think that can help us start to rebuild some confidence in our mental health as black men. So I do agree with the doctor.
Well, let me ask you, how do we change that? What do we do? Is it possible to change that? Or is it a dream? What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, fester like a sore, and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? I, I mean, can dreams be fulfilled? Can they be realized? It seems that much of society kind of goes beyond or away from that. And yeah, there are some people who manage to do all right and do okay. And they live well. They live at least about as long as other people. And so, I mean, that's something to shoot for. Life expectancy, if you can live same as other people, you doing whatever they doing. And so that must be, but then there are the millions that somehow or another who continue to get left behind. I know that we're spending a lot of time in the next few days doing manhood things. We are giving awards to outstanding men. And of course, I'm involved in a great deal of that. We are doing things for Father's Day. Uh, we're taking kids to the penitentiary to see their fathers as we do every year. We are highlighting manhood. We do all of that and we do it as consistently, but do we really have the hope or the belief or the faith? Or are we willing to make sacrifices that are necessary to make it happen? I know when I used to be a school teacher, I used to go home at night and just basically wreck my brains saying, how can I get my students to learn? How can I get them to do what I wanted them to do? For no other reason than knowing that that's what they needed to do. And I taught at a school where the kids weren't supposed to make it. Fortunately, I run into quite a few of them right now who did make it, who have made it, and are living wonderful lives. And when I see them, we can't hardly separate. Ah, Mr. Davis. Ah, hey, Jack, is that you? Yeah. So, well, what are we doing enough of what we need to do? Are we using the approaches we need to use?
Wait, Congressman, I think all of what you said is absolutely correct and important. And I'm reminded by someone who said, "You can't be what you can't see." And
Eugene pension.
yeah, can't be what you can't. A lot of people said you can't be what you can't see. And I was just talking with Dr. Whitaker today, and some as we work through the creating pathways for academic student success to help get our children, more of our children, ready for opportunities to get into the professional schools, whether it be medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, whatever they are, but to make sure they get the supplemental skill sets that they need to be able to successfully go through these programs. Because unfortunately, if you look at the self-reported information from the Chicago Board of Education and looked at scores and looked at what kind of preparation a lot of our students outside of the magnet schools are having, they're not prepared to be able to successfully matriculate through many of these programs. They're just not. And we see it all the time. But the one thing is that is something that is helpful. It's good for them to still, and this is why we do this, is still that they need to see us. They need to see us visible, and admitting that I was one of those students for one time, that I wasn't the sharpest tool in the
Come
shed.
on, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just
Yes,
being
sir.
honest. I'm just
Yes,
being
sir.
honest.
You're just
I
telling
mean,
on yourself. You're
and
telling on yourself.
yes, sir, because you don't have to be you don't have to be gifted with something crazy to be smart or something like that. You just have to want to do it and put the work in. And we
Absolutely.
to put the work,
Absolutely.
and we got to let people know we in this instant generation where everything seems to happen right away. But no, you got to put work in, and because if you want to do these things, we got to put work in. The other thing that we got to do is we got to create institutions. Right now, we don't have one place in the United States that I'm aware of where we can actually train black physicians in a black hospital and all over the country. I mean, just not, maybe there's a little still left at Howard, maybe a little bit left at Meharry, but for the most parts, all the things that our ancestors understood that we need to stop begging people to do for us what we could do for ourselves and build our own institutions, working with people who choose to work with us, doing what we need to do, not what they want to do, but what we need to do these things so that we can create the people that we need ourselves. And we're looking at programs starting now, really in the grammar schools, because some of the grammar schools in our neighborhoods, it's awful. It's just awful. And we've got, and there's a report card that's been out. I don't have to, you don't have to believe me. You can look at the self-reported data. So there's a lot, and this is a long conversation, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but
Yeah,
I'm just
I,
dealing
I
with.
want to I want to jump in, Terry, and I just want to make a point, and then I want to turn over to Victor and Learning, because they're from a different generation than us, but they probably have had some of the same experience of us. And one of the things that I'm reminded of is a song that was put together by, and now I'm blocking on his name, but it was narrated by Harry Belafonte. Song is called "Got Over." It's Harry Belafonte telling his story and how he got over. We're among those that got over. And we feel that we've left some of our brothers behind while we have succeeded. And there are a variety of reasons that we may have come up from some conditions that were adverse. But there were people in our lives, there were opportunities in our lives that we were afforded, and we were ready when those opportunities came. But I'm going to take a step back because there's another generation here. And I think they need an opportunity to talk about themselves and how they got over. And maybe that will help other people know how to get over.
So if I could, Congressman used the word sacrifice, and it hit me in my heart and in my stomach when he said it. And what I think, Doctor, you're saying that I'm agreeing with, but I'm gonna say it like this: I think the sacrifice of our forefathers was to sacrifice for the people. And yes, I may have went off and become a doctor or a preacher, whatever, but my sacrifice in doing all that was to empower and encourage my neighbors and the community that you can have and be inspired to be what you want. And right now, we're in a time now where people are making sacrifices, but it's selfish. They only want to be able to get that nice car. They only want to be able to get that nice house. They want to be able to buy and wear all the nice stuff. They're not thinking about anybody else. They just want to say, I made it. But until we all make it, we ain't made shit. Excuse me. I got a saying I came up with: united we profit, divided we beg. We beg.
Go ahead, Victor.
So I'm just telling you, I've done this work with an organization that me and some of my brothers started called Breaking Bread. Don't know if y'all knew that or knew of that. I would go into community meetings, and when they get ready to start talking about the summer with all the violence in Chicago with our boys and little girls that are creating, and well, we're going to get these jobs and we're going to do these things. And I'm sitting there listening to all this. I don't want to cuss on here, but I'm listening to all this mess they're talking about. And I'm sitting there rocking, can't hold my peace. And like you guys see me sticking my hand up, I stick my hand up. Rahm Emanuel was in the room. And I said, everything you guys are talking about, it sounds good, but it'll never work. Because number one, you putting up a billboard and you sending stuff in the mail and you emailing this information about these opportunities. You got to walk right up into Pookie's face and tell him you love him. And brothers, is anything I can help you with? What do you need? And y'all scared of that. Y'all ain't going to do that. That's why this weekend, you guys, if you come, you're going to see Lernie and I give out money to grassroots organizations who don't get the big shine, but they putting in work right out of their own pocket, trying to change somebody's life. And we've identified about 6 of those organizations. And we're going to turn the music off because we're going to have a good time. We're going to celebrate our life, but we're going to celebrate it with a purpose. And we're going to turn it off. And Lernie and our goal is to say, we're challenging people. We're going to raise the standard on how you throw a party. If you ain't blessing somebody and helping somebody in these functions that you're doing, and no, it's over with. I'm not going to no more parties where you just going there to socialize. And who you helping? Who is it benefiting? So our sacrifice is going to have to go back to what our forefathers did. We're going to have to be fighting. If I make it, I got to see that Lernie gets up. I got to see that my sister Pat Dale is fine. I got to make sure everybody is fine. And if not, your sacrifice is selfish. What's that thing they used to say, Congressman? Me, my foe, and no more, or something like, y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. No, how about everybody? We, us. We put the big words in there. All of us. I don't know. And you said so. All or none.
With sacrifice, they say charity start at home. Charity start in our own community. We need to start rebuilding our community. I came up in Inglewood too, Dr. Mason, and I came up in we 60. We came up when we was probably one of the first or second blacks, and on our block, we was in that white flight era when Inglewood switched from white to black, and we didn't know when they left because it was like we woke up, we had new neighbors coming in that was black. We said, when did they move? So but eventually the neighborhood became all a black community. But what we had back then, we had coaches, teachers that sacrificed after school program. They had families of their own. They would take us home. They would talk to us. They would come on Saturdays. They would take, and even on Sundays, make sure that we had what we need when they saw something in us. That doesn't even exist anymore. Everybody's scared of our own community, and our community is really becoming blighted, that blacks are not there. I'm not saying just black, just minorities. So we need to give back. We need to get back. We need to start. I agree with Mr. Love. I do agree with Mr. Harrington. I think I can't see his name. It's kind of small writing. But that sacrifice is just when you're having a good time, don't forget about the people that ain't having a good time. Okay.
Yeah.
One of my dear friends you may have met over the years who passed all too soon, Kwesi Ronald Harris. I don't know if you've ever met Kwesi. He worked on the west side at Bobby Wright Community Mental Health Center. And he described himself. First time I met him, Kwesi described himself. And I asked him, what did he do? He said, I'm a servant leader. I see myself as a servant first and a leader second. And I'm there to do whatever I can to uplift people like me. And I think that's what you're talking about. And so
Absolutely.
sometimes what we lack are people that look like us, that are passionate about doing this work and not looking for a reward in return.
Absolutely. You said it all.
Well, I think there's working hard. There's also working smart. And we continue to do it both ways. Talking about African American males, I went to the memorial service for Tom Todd on Saturday, and I felt so good reminiscing with people about some of the great personalities, men who have existed in Chicago, probably beginning with Dusaba, more than likely. I don't know if you could get more better than that. But just acknowledging. And so some of the most profound African men, some of the most profound men, period, have been Black men who've lived in Chicago. Any way you cut it,
Yes.
in any
Yes.
fields of endeavor, whether it's
Yes.
clergy, whether it's sports, whether it's athletics, whether it's financing, whether it's making money, whether it's establishing one of those 6 banks that Dr. Mason was talking about. How did we go from 6 to none? I mean, so it does take a lot of analysis.
Other people's water is colder. That's how we go. We gotta run when we get that opportunity to go play with them. We want to go. We want to try that out. We don't want to stay home. We want to go try the other cold water out. And that's how you
So
lose 6 banks.
Might as
throughout
well give it up.
history,
You got other people making. I mean, when I grew up, you had a lot of Black restaurants you could go to and eat, and you had a lot, and not that you couldn't eat anywhere else. But I mean, nowadays, you wonder what happened to all those things. There were places, Joe, you grew up in an area where they had the restaurant right over on 63rd Street. And we had a
My
lot of
parents owned a restaurant for 30 years on 63rd, right off the roads, 523 63rd,
Yeah, I
right
know
next door to
the
Madame Futonia's health food store.
Yeah.
1986, there was a fire. 1986, there was a fire. Half the block burned down. Nobody had insurance. That's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of businesses. I mean, I got to tell you, my history is I've had Black men who spoke positively in my life, from my 6th grade science teacher who inspired me to go into science, and had classes before I went to Carrie Jacob Bond Grammar School on 71st and Racine. And that's where we used to have classes that started an hour before school for people for math and for science, that these teachers did on their own without any extra pay. They just did it because they loved it. That's what they did. And
They
that
made
was,
sacrifices.
yeah, and if I think about the people that influenced me, Mr. Joseph Bingham, who was the guy from Alabama who had the grocery store across the street from my house. I didn't know how to interest in surgery, but I knew I liked, and I got to the point where I could cut down a half a cow to almost any steak you can want to eat. I learned that from them. I learned from men who were telling the truth and want to see and invest love and time in us. And that's what we, and I'm not going, I'm sorry. I get very emotional about this subject.
Well, Linda
My
Johnson
man,
is here. Oh, go ahead.
my
Go
man,
ahead.
I love that. No, did he just say he gets very emotional about that and he kind of having a moment? I
Yes.
love it. Yeah, that's me. You're talking to the ultimate crybaby. When you that's his heart
That's
right there. No, that's his heart right there. That's his heart right there. Man, I love you, dude. I can't. I don't mean no disrespect with saying, dude. I'm a little young like the other guy. Man, I love it. I asked a brother
Yeah.
the other day who's going through some problems, and he knows he's something else. I've been trying to get him on the couch, and I asked him a question. I said, "Do you cry?" And he said, "No, I ain't really with that shit." I said, "It told me everything about him. You don't cry? Got it. I'm clear. I'm clear who you are. You so damaged and traumatized that you can't even you can't what? You don't cry? Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All my friends know I'm a crier. But if you try me, doctor, I'll split your wig too. How about that?
Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh,
but the brother that you're talking about is about to explode. That's the
Do you
problem.
understand what
Yeah.
He's
I'm telling
about
you?
to explode.
Do you understand what I'm telling you? I know it.
And
You don't
somebody's gonna
cry.
get hurt. And it might be him.
okay, Mr.
Somebody is
Love.
gonna get hurt.
Okay, Mr. Love. Passionate. My friend, my partner is a very passionate man, and he stands for what he believes, and that's a great thing.
I might have to hand over the 100 to Nikki also, crying is a part of healing. It's a way to express yourself. The thing you said, Dr. Mason, about math, I usually don't talk about stuff, but I'm the board chair of an organization called the 530 Scholars. And people on there get up 5:30 every morning to take these Black kids through reading and math. You know, the goal
My
is to
dear.
score at least a 30 on the MCAT and be in the top fifth percentile in the nation. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yes.
No, you can't hear me.
yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes, we
I'll
can.
say quickly,
Yes.
530 Scholars. These are Black people that get up 5:30 every morning to go through reading and math with our youth, and those youth scoring the fifth percentile in the nation in reading and math, and at least a 30 on the ACT. And that's what it takes, and that's the kind of attention our youth deserve, right? But we have to put in. I used to be a school teacher, and I will say that is for our community that's out there listening, right? Our teachers are doing the work, but they're the second educator, right? Somebody in the community. If you don't do it, find somebody in the community that's doing it. Join that. That's the other part of kind of Dr. Mason. What I'll say, and I step back, supporting our community, supporting ourselves, right? The resources that are in our community, we have to lift them up. And y'all know I say this all the time. We have to find out what Congress people, lawmakers, healthcare professionals, attorneys, what finance people are, and other things are supporting our community, and then we support them. If they don't support us, we don't support them. We have to be adamant about that, and unapologetic about it, right? And we have to do that. We have to stand unapologetically for our community. I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. Well, Linda Johnson, she wanted you guys to know that the best way to actually provide assistance in our community when we're dealing with those who may have some issues, or just actually sitting here with those and actually aiding them around the way, is through mentoring. And she says to make sure that you allow them to walk beside you and to guide them with love. So, Linda, that is a profound statement, and we love it. Natasha Hall is here, and she says, yes, Dr. Maya, yes. Well, there are some who think that Doug has nothing to say. Doug has lots to say, and when he does speak, Doug is a profound speaker when speaking. So, Doug, go right ahead.
I just really want to support Dr. Maya and the group that was getting up early to teach those kids. And the reason why is because my youngest daughter was a charter school teacher. And I can tell you that there's a tremendous need to supplement the public school system because there aren't enough resources to get the job done. So I'm going to say thumbs up, Dr. Maya. That's one of the things that we need to be done is to supplement the public school system because there's just not enough resources there.
Well, as always, I know you guys hate to hear when I say this, but it's our time. So, as we always do, we're going to go around and we're going to do our until next Monday. But right before we do the until next Monday, I got a few announcements that I want to make. The first announcement I want to make is make sure you join our office as we do a gigantic resource fair right up front of the weekend of Father's Day, that's Saturday. So we want to remind you guys to join us if by any chance you would like to go on the trip down to Sheridan, or if you have a family member there and you're trying to visit or would like to go along with your youth. Please make sure you give our office a call at 773 533 7520. Once again, the number is 773 533 7520. Ask for Sharita Logan, and Sharita can actually assist you with making sure that you can be a part of the Father's Day initiative. We also want to remind you that between July, the first weekend of July, which I believe is the 6th, that Saturday is the 6th, up until I want to say August 3rd. So it's from July 6th to August 3rd, and it's every Saturday, the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, the 27th, and the 3rd. We will have a resource explosion. So that resource explosion will be at Malcolm X in the Learning Center parking lot. Each Saturday, we would have a plethora of health resources. Come out there because Onyx Medical Wellness will be there just as well. We'll have them providing services to our communities. It'll be a ton of resources there. Loretta Hospital will be there. We will have micro and small businesses there just as well. And we're looking to have some form of a farmer's market there just as well. And Dr. Mason is working on that for us. So we can have education and fresh foods and produce. That's in the Malcolm X part. Oh, and it will also be a job fair each weekend. So we want to remind you guys to come out and join us there at that time. That's the Malcolm X Learning Center on West Madison Street, each Saturday from the hours of 10 to 5 p.m. Each Saturday, the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, the 27th, and the 3rd. Then we also want to remind you of the Congressman's Back to School Picnic Parade and World Health Day, which is going to be August 17th. That's August 17th at Columbus Park. We do our great parade, which is just about 3.5 miles westbound down Central into Columbus Park, where there is a plethora of different health resources available for you at that time. Well, Doug, you're until next Monday.
So I've been thinking that we've often talked about high blood pressure as being a silent killer. I'm thinking, and so is the accumulated stress of life. It's the same way. It builds and builds and builds, and it's silent. I just want to commend Dr. what Joseph Harrington said, that if you don't have an outlet, if you're not able to share it, it's going to break you. So that seeking help, talking about it, is actually a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness.
Absolutely. 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 I want to say hey to Corey Bussey that is here with us just as well. Well, Joe, you're until next Monday.
I've got several, but I'm combining them all together. And one of the things that I was thinking about as I was listening to us and working toward the close is the gospel song. It ain't over till it's over, until God says it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to keep that in mind. It ain't over. The struggle does continue. Alunta continua. So that's one. The other thing, we are our brother's keeper. And so it's up to us to make sure that we help other people make a difference.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, Dr. Mason, you're until next Monday.
We need to realize ain't no cavalry coming. If we gonna fix this, we got to work on fixing it ourselves. And that's the way it really ought to be. We can get help from other people, but we got to take the leadership and getting it did.
Outstanding. Well, Victor, you're until next Monday. What would you like to leave our viewers with as your thought until next Monday?
I've heard some songs being some titles, so I'm gonna come with two songs. There was a song by Heatwave that says, "Ain't no half stepping, you gotta do it good." And then the second one is, "Brothers gonna work it out." It's gonna take the men to work this thing out. We're gonna have to get in our proper polarity and take the lead to rebuild our communities back and establish this strong family, and the women and the children will follow.
All right. All right. Well, I see Learning had a little technical difficulty and we're ending now. So what is your until next Monday? What would you like to leave everyone with as a thought until next Monday?
We want to stay prayerful. We want to stay motivated, and we have to encourage each other and stay encouraged.
All right. Outstanding. Well, Congressman, take us home as always. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, Dr. Maya, you are until next Monday.
No, I'm just reflecting on what the brilliant men on this call have said. That's it.
All right. Congressman, take us home.
Well, let us thank our special guests, Lernie and Victor, for being with us. It's an interesting kind of medicine that we practiced tonight. I didn't see any pills. I didn't see the hypodermic. But it was medicine just the same. And it was health, because I firmly believe that if you will find what a community will accept, that is exactly what it will get.
Uh-huh. Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Nobody can ride your back if you're not bent over.
Oh, that's right.
Nobody can block you or stop you if you declare that you're unblockable and unstoppable.
Preach.
Even when they try, I've heard some discussions in the last few days where individuals are trying to change the meaning of religion, where all the things traditionally religion has taught, different kinds of religion, they are reteaching it a different way. Groups called evangelicals. And if you want to survive, you better know you better try and protect yourself, because there are individuals in this country, unlike anything we have experienced during our time, who are seriously, with all effort that they can muster,
Yes, yes.
trying to take the country backwards.
Yep.
I mean, and cut Social Security. It ain't much. No way. I was with a gentleman, 90 years old, gets $900 a month. That's what he got to live on. And there are people wanting to cut Social Security, reduce it. Say it's run away. Efforts to cut SNAP benefits and say that people are eating too much because They can't control their appetites. Or that health care is run away and that people ought not have it. So until next Monday, you better wake up. I think that song you play every Sunday morning, Dr. Mason.
Yes, sir.
Wake up, everybody. So you better wake up. Otherwise, you may be going to sleep too soon. So thanks for the evening. Thanks for the week to come. And until next Monday, stay on your toes. Have a good one. All right.
Be blessed.